Thanks, Carmel. Good morning, everybody. We'll try that again. Good morning, everybody. Come on. Remember that in school? They used to do that to you, getting flashbacks. You're all very, very welcome on behalf of everybody, not just in the UNESCO Child and Family Research Centre, our team here, but also everybody in the Institute for Life Course and Society, which is a congregation of 6 research centres which focus on applied social research across the life course, including research on people with disability and older people, as well as the work that we're doing here on children, youth and families. I was just remarking to John Canavan, we were talking this morning, the first conference we ever had on this whole domain occurred in 1998, which is quite frightening that it's actually 21 years ago. And this is our 9th biennial conference. And indeed, in many ways, the UNESCO Child and Family Research Centre grew from that first conference into where we are here today and what we're doing. And one of the things we like to think about these conferences is that it's very much about a community, and that it's great to see some familiar faces. There's some people here I haven't seen in 2 years who look older than they did 2 years ago, but they say the same thing about me, so that's fine. But it's great to see familiar faces back again. And for people for whom it's their first time here, it's really important that you feel welcome and part of this community for family support, prevention and early intervention, which is really what the purpose, not just of the conference, but of the work of the centre. And lastly, before I introduce our president, just to say that I think it's very important that we continuously remind ourselves that we're in this absolutely fantastic building, which was supported by the university and by the foundation, but particularly because of the contribution of Chuck Feeney and Atlantic Philanthropies to the building of this building. And in fairness to Chuck, I think we should bear a moment thought in gratitude for his support to our work here over many years, not least in the building. So I hope you enjoy the next few days, and it's my pleasure to ask Uachtar an Hulscoil na Gaillimh Ciaran na Hugadig, Professor an Tullamh Ciaran na Hugadig, to actually open and kick us off. Thank you.
Thanks, Patrick. Míle mágat agus go mbeadh agah féin as sucht bheith seo. Tá nás an fáilte choibh go dtí Gaillimh agus go dtí Hulscoil na HÉireann Gaillimh agus go dtí an Fergan na Bháling seo Cois na Hound. When I was here 30 years ago, the campus stopped at Distillery Road, just about halfway down between here and the hospital. And this whole north side of campus has developed since, which I think is not only a manifestation of buildings, as Pat has said, but of research capacity as well. So particularly pleased to be here and to welcome you to this, as I say, this wonderful building where we've opened up to the river and much more so even than I was here 30 years ago. But also particularly pleased, I'm invited to open lots of events, and I have to be selective because I can't be everywhere, unfortunately. And I'm particularly pleased to have said yes to this particular invitation for a number of reasons. First of all, as Pat will know because he's part of the group developing our strategy, the university strategy we're developing currently, we're about halfway through the discussion, and for beyond 2020. So the current strategy finishes in 2020, and we might already have a title for the next one, beyond 2020. And one of the things we're going to say up front is that the university is here to serve our students and our society. That the university is a public good, serves the public interest. And that's going to be the first sentence in the strategy. Not yet finalised, not yet ironed out, the wrinkles not yet ironed out in the sentence, but certainly the intention is, and I think we've agreed around this, is that we will say that up front. And there are a number of reasons for that. First of all, because it's true. I think all universities throughout time should did exist for the public good and did exist to serve society. And secondly, because very often we need to remind ourselves of that. I've said this to a number of people, including public representatives around town, and they've been surprised that the university might say this and might commit itself to this, because very often we're not seen anymore as having that public good at the centre of what we do. So I think it recreates the value of the university beyond looking for funding and beyond looking for resources, raising our sights a little bit higher and saying, well, why are we here in the first place? And if we're here to serve the public good, hopefully other answers follow to that particular challenge if we establish ourselves as having that purpose. But the third reason, and I think to me the most profound reason why we're saying this, because NUI Galway has that sense of itself. And no more or no greater does it have that sense of itself than here. that in this conference, in this building, and the work we do here, we clearly serve society. And we serve the needs of society and the public good more generally. And that's the first reason why I'm particularly pleased to be here, because this is a manifestation of the role of the university in the world. And when we see you coming here and working with us, and when I see the work that's going on here on a regular basis, led by my colleagues, this is why we exist. And I'm particularly pleased, therefore, to be here to trace Theme Live, to be with you and congratulate you on the work you're doing and to thank you for it, because it is important work. It is the meaning and why we're here. And so not only do we welcome you, but we also thank you for the work you're doing. Second reason why I'm particularly pleased to be here is, again, coming out of the strategy we started with values, because my sense is we should start with why. And when I came here first, I thought there was a real sense of values here that we weren't necessarily surfacing, and that we should think about a values-led strategy. And in that context, we've coalesced around 5 values, 2 of which were particularly raised by colleagues, and we're putting one of those first and foremost. And the one we're putting first and foremost is respect. And the sense that the university, NUI Galway, should be a respectful NUI Galway. We should respect ourselves, the work we do. We should respect each other. We should respect the evidence as researchers. We should respect those we work with outside the gates. And I think that is a very important value. We've had an external group established, Maura Geoghegan-Quinn as chair. One of the members there is Patricia King from Congress. And she has, in the first meeting, made a very passionate plea. If we only had one value, the greatest of these would be respect, because all else follows. And if you think about it, people have said, why isn't that equality? Why isn't that other things? But respect captures a lot of those values, those wider perspectives that we should have, those wider ambitions we should have for ourselves. And if we have, at the end of my tenure here, if we are a respectful NUI Galway and nothing more than that, I think we'll have achieved a lot. And secondly, the second value that we're coalescing around, again, thankfully and pleasantly put forward by my colleagues, is a sense of expertise, a sense of excellence, a sense of high standards. And again, this is encapsulated here, the sense that here we have knowledge, we have expertise, we strive for excellence, and we have high standards in the work we do. So not only in ILAS, in the UNESCO Centre for Child and Family Research, but more generally in this building, we have high standards. And again, I'm particularly pleased to congratulate my colleagues and to congratulate yourselves in the work you do in setting those high standards. And to me, there's no contradiction between respect and high standards. If we respect each other, we work best for each other. We give of our best to each other. And that in itself is striving for that second value of high standards, excellence and expertise. And that's something I think, again, we'll develop more over the coming years. 2 other values we've been challenged by our students. We surveyed students and we said, what do you think the university values should be, are and should be, and what do we need more of? And they came forward with 2 particular ideas, again, many of which challenge us. The first was accessibility. And to them it meant social justice. It meant that we are accessible to students who don't normally come here, that we have different and diverse student population. But I think to us as a university community it means that, but it means much more than that. And it means that the walls are open, that our walls are permeable, that we're welcoming to the world. And there are 2 aspects of what the work you're doing today, and the conference, I think, captures this in 2 ways. One is that sense of openness to policy and practice. So noticing in the title, Changing Families, Changing Policy, Changing Practice. So starting with that expertise and knowledge of families and beginning there, and then thinking about the implications of that for practice and for policy. And I think that to me is a manifestation of accessibility, of accessible NUI Galway, that we seek to achieve through the standards that we have. And the second piece for me, which is maybe a little more beneath the surface, but nonetheless profound, is that we engage with people that don't normally engage with the university. So when I came here first, we have a lot of people who see the university as their natural home. I lived just down the road, Myola Park, and my dad grew up actually very close to where Pat's from in Dublin, and we came to Galway, and because I was in Newcastle, Myola Park, I walked through college every day into town, and it became part of the furniture of my life. There are many people in society where that is not the case. And again, if in the next 5 to 10 years, if as a university we can reach out to those darker places, and those places where people don't necessarily always engage with the universities, don't always see universities as their furniture, their natural hinterland, I think that accessibility is something that is very important to us as NUI Galway, and it's something, again, that's manifest here. So in the work you're doing, day by day, you're reaching out to places where universities and educators, researchers, policymakers don't maybe often reach out to. And the work you're doing is therefore particularly valuable to society and to the university more generally, because it's opening up the knowledge, the expertise that we have to a much wider community. And I'm keen that we find those communities and work with them more. And it starts here with the work you do. This very building is a manifestation of that in so many ways in its openness and accessibility to the world. And then the second value, the fourth university value, but the second value students' challenges on was sustainability. The sense that, as we know, this generation of students is impatient, not satisfied with the world they've been left with, and want to do better. And to me, again, sustainability is that sense of environmental sustainability, and the university working in that regard, and particularly ambitious goals that we'll be thinking about there. But also sustainability means that is again manifest in this conference. As Pat mentioned, this conference is now in its ninth manifestation. And I always think that when I was teaching, that students always come to the first class because they want to know what's going on. They come to the fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. They come because they're interested. And so conferences like this are sustainable because they're interesting, because they serve a purpose, and people keep coming because they find meaning here and something that's of value. So I'd particularly like to commend the conference for that sustainability, that year by year, or every second year, having the conference in mind and bringing together communities like yourselves in order to think about things that are valuable and meaningful to yourselves and to us. And then the final value that we have, and I think our external stakeholders particularly have challenged on this one, is that sense of NUI Galway being different and distinctive. Why is it that we're here? What service, what purpose do we serve that's different? What flavour, what salt do we add to the world? And again, through having the UNESCO chair here, through having colleagues here working on very different areas of research, I think again, the work that's done here, the conference that we have today and tomorrow is a manifestation of that. That there is work being done here that's different, that's distinctive, that adds salt and flavour to the world, and I commend you for all of that. So for those reasons, particularly pleased to welcome you, first of all, for that sense of purpose that you give us, that sense that over the conference that you will be thinking about questions and answers that serve society, and that is the reason why we exist. And I've often said, at graduation in particular, that the role that we have as individuals is to leave the world in a better place than we found it. And if, that is our responsibility, and here you do that, and I commend you for it, and I thank you for it. And then for the sense of values that you have, the values that we're developing as a university community come from the university community, and they are most manifest here and very real here. That sense of respect, that sense of expertise and excellence, that sense of accessibility to the world, that sustainability and research in other areas, but most importantly in this context, the distinctive work that's being done here. I commend you for it, but most of all I thank you for it. Gurmina Mahagav, Osatsan Abertar Shulagav. Thank you. And I just finished by saying that Gurmina Mahagav, and as you know, that is thank you, but if you parse the sentence, it also means may you have good. And I think that's the best way to wish you well. Trace Liam Liv, may you have good. Gurmina Mahagav, thank you.